Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Why Does This Exist? I'm Chris,
And I'm Rob.
and today we're gonna be taking a break for a little bit from the summer blockbuster stuff, and we're gonna go back to some music talk today. We're gonna be talking about a really cool metal band that just it's unfortunate that they're not here anymore, and that is because the lead singer and, well, really the heart and soul of the band is just not with us anymore. They're one of your favorite bands. I mean, Rob will probably do the majority of the talking on this.
Yeah.
And you've been asking me to do this for a very long time, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that we finally are. I wish that I was more into them when they were active, and I wish that I had gotten a chance to see them, because just watching. But fortunately, we have live videos that other people have recorded and everything, so I can go back in time in a way and see them, but it's not the same. I wish I had gotten to see them live, and they seemed like really cool and wonderful people. We are talking about the band Huntress. I know I didn't really give much away just now, but we're talking about Huntress. They were an awesome metal band who just kind of were like a combo of British heavy metal with thrash and deathy and doomy influences, and it was just really interesting stuff that they did, and they really had a very unique sound, and I think it was really, really cool stuff, and I'm glad we got to appreciate some of Jill Janus's work. It's unfortunate that she was not able to stick around. Of course, those of you who listen to Huntress know she took her own life in 2018, and there were a whole other thing surrounding that we will get into, and it's a very sad situation, but she at least left a legacy of wonderful music that she had planned and was brilliant in her musical approach, and the whole purpose of the band was very, very cool. So I appreciate the time that we were allowed to spend with her on this earth. I'm grateful that we were able to get music from her and that she was able to give so much in such a short amount of time. That said, on a less depressing note, we are Why Does This Exist? We are a podcast that talks about weird things in pop culture, whether it's music like we're about to do, movies that we've been doing, or just some other things altogether. We talk about these things, we discuss them. Maybe you learn something, maybe you get to turn your brain off, or maybe you just fuck off and run naked in a forest. I really don't care. But you're listening, that's great. All of the extra things that you can do to help support the show, including give us money, are all in the descriptions below, whatever it is that you're listening to this show on in digital media device land. That said, that's the news. Here's the weather. You are now about to witness the true strength of street knowledge from a ragtag group of rogues. So let's get on with the goddamn show. Rob, why don't you tell the good people about this wonderful band? Yes. And I'll just shut the fuck up for about 5 and 7 minutes.
So Huntress, as you said, was formed by the heart and soul of Huntress, which was, of course, Jill Janus. Janus was had such a interesting life, and what led her to Huntress, it was just kind of almost like fated, written in the stars. So Huntress formed when Janus moved to California, and it came out of her desire to write a metal album, and and she met the band Professor, who would form the core musicians of Huntress. Blake Meal, the lead guitarist, I believe Ian Alden, and Greg Imhoff, and Sean Ford, and so they were a band without a vocalist, and Jill was looking for a band, and so lo and behold, Huntress was formed. Their first and Jill had been, writing and playing music for many years. Jill grew up in actually the Catskills Mountains of New York, and was actually an opera singer for many years. She
Yes, she was touring
Yes,
for like when she was very young.
yeah, she actually attended the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, um, and toured the world as an opera singer. She was had a four octave vocal range, and was a coloratura soprano. Um, and that definitely shined through in Huntress. She really did use her whole range in Huntress.
Yes.
So
Well,
Jill,
the interesting thing was that Huntress, it wasn't just Huntress, it wasn't the idea for the album and the band really. She got from her pagan roots when she was growing up.
yes,
As when she was growing up in the Catskills, she practiced paganism actually, which is
yes,
something you don't hear much anymore, but
no,
also just really cool. As we've said on this
yes,
show, the pagan ways are probably the best ways, and well, they were the OG religion, and we probably should have respected and kept that. But unfortunately, Christianity showed up and tricked people, for lack of a better term. We
yeah.
discussed more about that during the Krampus episode, which, go back in time and you'll find it.
It
But
was around Christmas.
yeah, just a hint as to when you would find the show. But she did hunt. The idea for Huntress is going back to the goddess of the hunt, and
Yes,
and the idea was to just pay tribute to the goddess of the hunt.
yes,
And she had these concepts for the three different albums,
yes,
and the albums would represent a different phase of the goddess.
yeah. So Jill was, I believe she said in interviews, she was inducted into a coven when she was 13, and had practiced paganism pretty much her whole life, but was officially inducted into a coven when she was 13. And so the three albums of Huntress were based on the three, like you said, the three aspects of the triple moon goddess in Wicca. Um, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And Jill kind of also kind of became an aspect of that during Huntress. During the first album, based on what she would wear on stage, and her makeup that she would use, she really based her appearance on the maiden, the mother, and then later on the crone in when the third album came out.
And the musical styles of the albums would reflect that too.
Yes. Yes, the first album was very much, highly energetic, um very hold on, what's the word I'm looking for? Very innovative, I guess. And
Mhm.
the second album was more grounded and showed the evolution of the band. And then the third album became much darker and felt more like the band had aged. You could feel the wisdom in the third
Mhm.
album. Uh, but Jill had been involved with music her whole life as well. She had been, after touring the world as an opera singer, she became a disc jockey for a very long time. She played as a disc jockey the last party in Windows of the World the day before September 11th.
Wow.
So she had actually left the World Trade Center just hours before the attacks occurred because, the party had ended at like 1 or 2 in the morning
Right.
on September 11th. She also played in a band called Vexy Strut, and also played in another kind of all-star metal band, which I forget what was called now.
Is it the Chelsea Girls?
Yes, the Chelsea Girls. Actually, with Courtney Cox from the Iron Maidens was also play guitar in that band.
Oh, Get
Um,
Out.
yeah. So Jill's been involved with music for a very, very long time. And like I said, when she moved to California to form Huntress with the band Professor, uh, that's when her career, I think, really took off. And she often told this story in interviews where she, again, like you said, paganism was very much involved in every aspect of her life and every aspect of her bands. And she told the story that she asked the tarot for a kick-ass song to be the first single for Huntress, and the first card she drew was Eight of Swords,
Mhm.
and Eight of Swords became their first big hit. And for those listening, it's an amazing song. Go check it out. It's so good. They did a music video for it, which for an underground independent label band to do a music video of that quality is just insane, because it's a really great music video.
Yes. She said in interviews that the band put all of their own money into it.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, or shortly after either the video or the first album came out, they had 9 different labels trying to sign them.
Yeah.
And she said a lot of interesting things that were little bits of advice for a lot of musicians. Now, she had in some of her interviews, one of the things that I noticed was she had the idea for Huntress early on. I mean, she said that like
Yes.
years before she ended up forming the band, but what she claims that she got the idea in a dream, that like she was visited by pagan gods and they told her to do this basically. And she but then she said, I think she said in 2006
Mm-hmm.
or 2003, something like that, she trademarked the name Huntress as a
Mm-hmm.
band, which that's something no one tells you,
Yeah.
that you need to trademark the band name. And sometimes, even if you do trademark the band name, some asshole will still try to come after you. And then you just have to look at it and say, well, do we have the money to fight this or not? That's what happened
Yep.
to you and I with the
Yeah.
Zamboni thing.
Yeah.
And fuck those guys. But, it is what it is.
And fuck lawyers.
Yes, fuck lawyers for sure. But also, she also thanked lawyers in other interviews when she was talking about the signing, about choosing which record label to sign with,
Mm-hmm.
because she made sure that they got an entertainment lawyer, and they said, which deal, we have 9 deals in front of us, tell us which one is the deal we should go with, which one is the most fair. Like, all deals legally are going to be a little bit more one-sided, some more one-sided than others. Obviously, it's favorable to the label,
Mm-hmm.
but the one that's the least awful, basically,
Yeah.
is what they asked, and the lawyer did what they were supposed to do, and they ended up signing with Napalm Records. Now, there's some labels where I've heard very mixed to bad things
Mm-hmm.
about. I won't say which ones, but the standards and practices of record labels they haven't gotten much better, and that's part of the problem. And
Yes.
they've gotten quite worse over time, and it's because nobody in the music, none of the bigwigs or anybody in the music industry really even know how to make money anymore, because of because of the way that people access music now. And it started with Napster stuff. We all know that. And the funny thing about that is, while Metallica looked like assholes at the time, they were kind of right about this, that this was going to
Yes.
turn into a problem.
Yes.
And lo and behold, it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the state of the music industry that we're in now.
Yes.
And then with the streaming services, bands make less money than they did before. And part of that problem is because a lot of these old contracts that you were making money in the 50s because you were making pennies on the dollar. That was fine in the early days of Johnny Cash's era because barely anything cost more than $5-10.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were making $20,000-30,000 a year, you were doing pretty damn good in those times. So making 10 cents on the dollar wasn't a bad deal at the time. The problem is those record contracts were never updated to adjust to inflation and to adjust to what the current state of things would be. So you've still got people signing deals that say the same thing. So if you're making pennies on the dollars in 2025, and then you still have to split that 4 or 5 ways or whatever, that's pretty fucking awful.
Yeah.
So no wonder musicians cannot make money anymore. And
Yeah.
it's also, then those things won't get updated because I don't even know who you would have to go to update that. Would Congress have to do something and step in? Which, good luck, because Congress does not care about anyone but themselves.
Yeah.
And
honestly,
and
Congress stepping in would be worse for everything because
probably
government should not be involved with shit like that. They will fuck it up
no.
even more. And in fact, government is largely responsible for the problems in the music industry because
Yes.
these giant companies lobbied for like shit like the Millennium Copyright Act, which created fucking hell for any kind of fair use kind of situation. So really, government getting involved is fucked. It's worse. Makes it worse.
Do you want to remind the people what the Millennium Copyright Act was?
So the Digital Millennium Copyright Act was basically a response to the Napster situation. The government came in and basically gave the power to these giant record conglomerates to sue you for whatever they wanted, whatever like even the stupidest things. They could sue a soccer mom for $30 million because she downloaded the latest Justin Bieber album off the internet. So the DMCA really screwed things up, and it's now used as basically a cudgel by big companies to stop any kind of use of their IPs, even if it is protected under fair use. Nintendo is notorious for this, for basically stealing people's money off of YouTube because they played a Nintendo game or streamed a Nintendo game, and Nintendo comes in and says, "Hey, you can't do that. That's our IP," and basically takes all the money that they made from the stream or video. So again, the problem is that when you have a government that's as corrupt as ours, oftentimes these multi-million-dollar conglomerates will just use it as a cudgel to beat down the little guy, which is basically what the DMCA did. So, yeah, no good deed goes unpunished.
No, unfortunately. So yeah, this is one of the few times where lawyers were okay in helping Huntress. See, we got it back around somehow.
Yeah,
and she ends up making the 3 albums, which I wonder if, well, I don't know. I wonder where Huntress would have gone after it, but I also kind of wonder if that was the whole plan anyway, because there are interviews where she said that the plan was to do 3 albums on the 3 different stages of the Triple Moon Goddess.
Yes.
So part of me wonders if the plan was to just do the albums, tour for them, and I'm wondering if if the whole plan was just to do the 3 albums and no more music, and then maybe tour forever, or
do
did she
something
start
else.
or do something else and start a new project?
Well, here's the thing. Jill actually did announce in 2015 that Facebook that the band was going to come to an end and that she would continue to make the music, but that Huntress was done.
Mm-hmm.
Blake Meal came out and said that was not like a true statement, that Jill was having a really rough time mentally, and that's why she said that. And Jill actually eventually deleted that post, and Huntress continued on from there. But I think partially she probably wanted to end the band at that point. She had done what she had set out to do. She had written the 3 albums based off the
Mm-hmm.
Triple Goddess, and obviously still wanted to make music, but maybe wanted to do something else. Blake and Jill were also in a relationship together, and I
Oh,
believe
I
they
didn't
lived
know
together.
that.
Yeah, so I think, you know, it was I think Blake, obviously wanted to continue with the band. And I'm sure he would have done whatever Jill decided to do would have continued with. But I think, they weren't the band, the guys in the band were not ready to stop Huntress, and I think he was able to convince Jill of that. Unfortunately, they would only last a few more years because, as we said before, Jill did take her own life in 2018. And I guess, we could talk a little bit about that. Jill, was very open about her mental health struggles.
Yeah,
She always talked about it in
she was
interview.
she had bipolar disorder,
Yes. And I
which
think,
is, if anyone has lived with someone or knows someone who has who is bipolar, it can it can be a great time or it can be a nasty time,
yes.
and you kind of have to just let them go through their stuff, but offer as much support as you can,
Hmm.
and but you also have to watch out for just you know some of the stuff that ends up coming out of it when they're going through a rough time, because like I said, it can be pretty nasty, and also sometimes they'll want you to just kind of enable whatever it is that they want to do, and you have to stand your ground on that stuff too, but not in a way where they where it would upset them. So you have to kind of you have to you have to really be able to empathize with someone like that, and also
Yeah.
just kind of guide them through it, and just really help them however you can.
Yeah. She had tried to commit suicide before. It wasn't the
Yeah,
first
I
time,
mean that's also very
unfortunately.
common with
Yeah.
bipolar disorder.
Yeah. Um, she also experienced dissociative identity disorder, schizophrenia, and alcoholism later on in life.
Oof.
And I think she had stated numerous times that uh, the the September 11th attacks affected her very severe, like her mental health a lot,
Oh, I'm
because
sure.
a lot of people that she know passed away in that tragedy. She had friends that, obviously died. She knew many people from the parties at the World Trade Center and at the Windows of the World. So, that those attacks affected her personally very, very greatly. And I think, she just unfortunately couldn't beat, she passed away due to her disease.
Mhm.
She also had was diagnosed with uterine cancer late during Huntress, and had to have a hysterectomy. So she did go through a lot, and it's very sad. I met Jill twice. Both times when I saw Huntress. The first time I saw them at the Rockstar Energy Drink Mayhem Fest, and that year was the best Mayhem Fest, bar none. There was never a better lineup ever than that year, because I got to see Huntress and I was right up at the stage, and then I got to meet Jill.
Oh,
Um, uh, Children of Bodom played, Amon Amarth played.
wow.
That was the
Children of
year.
That's another one who I always forget passed away, is Alexi
Yes,
Leho.
Alexi Leho. Yeah, another amazing musician who
Yeah,
unfortunately, had some
yeah.
demons.
I never got to see them either.
No, I luckily got to see them at this Mayhem Fest, which was amazing because I had wanted to see them. But I saw Amon Amarth. Rob Zombie was the headliner, so it was a very good Mayhem Fest that year. It probably the best one there was. I think
Nice.
Mastodon played, I think, too, or Gojira.
Either of those, that's sick.
Let me see if I can look up that lineup because it was such a good Mayhem Fest, and I don't want to fuck it up. Hold on.
Well, while you do that, what was your favorite? What's your favorite Huntress album?
Ooh, that's really hard for me because I love all three, but I want to say Starbound Beast by like a slight amount. I think that was like their opus. That was their Master of Puppets.
I would say
Um,
Starbound Beast too.
yeah, it was amazing. Static, the first album is amazing. It's probably one of the best debuts ever in metal. Period. Like
Mm.
it's just so tight, and and Jill's philosophy on making music. She said this many times was all killer, no filler, and that shows because that was all of the Huntress albums. It was all killer, no filler. They were perfectionists when it came to songwriting and would only put on songs that would pass, their
Yeah,
standards. So there's
yeah.
really
She
not
would
a bad song in any three of those albums.
in her interviews, she would pride herself on her high standards, and she would often say that that was why it took her so long to
Yeah.
to get the band together.
Let's
But yeah,
see.
I would say Starbound Beast too, because this is really because I think it just has the best blend of the musical styles that she's trying to get the sound that she's looking for. And it's also the middle phase of the Triple Moon Goddess, so
Yes.
I don't know if that's supposed to be the more important phase or
They're all equally
they're
important.
all okay, so
Yeah,
but I
and they
think
all
that this
represent
one
different things.
okay.
So
Well,
the maiden represents youth and virginity and youthful exploring, that kind of
mhm,
thing, innocence. The mother represents nurturing, and motherhood, fertility, that kind of thing, and the crone represents wisdom and, uh, to some extent, death,
mhm.
or the approaching death. It's death in paganism or in Wicca specifically is often not. Wiccans believe in different things. Some believe in reincarnation. Others believe there is some kind of afterlife that your soul goes back to the life stream or whatever you want to call it. Um, so there's various, beliefs there. Um,
I think Starbound Beast just there's just so many elements at play, and
yes.
I think Jill utilizes well, I think she utilizes the most of her vocal range in Spell Eater, but I think in Starbound Beast there's a lot more. There's I don't want to say control, but I think there's more. I think I think it's a little bit more together into what she's trying to do. There's more consistency. That's the word. Where
Yeah.
Spell Eater, it's a little bit. It's not all over the place, but because that would assume that it's meant to be that it's just chaotic and she doesn't have any control over it. Everything that that she's doing in all of the songs is done with a purpose.
Yeah.
And but I think with Spell Eater, you're hearing more of
It's
her
more
range
raw.
and more of yes, that's what it is. It's more raw, and that also ties into the theme
Yes.
of of the first phase where in Starbound Beats there's more, there is a little bit more consistency in what you're getting, but
Yeah.
it's also I think the sound of the band is so much more full in Starbound Beast
Yes.
that's really what does it. And every song speaks to me a lot better than all the other ones in the albums. Not to say that any are bad, but Beast speaks to me the most.
Yeah. Static for me. I like Static as an album, but it's very painful to listen to because Static was Jill screaming for help
Mm-hmm.
lyrically. If you read some of the lyrics, especially Mania, Harsh Times on Planet Stoked, the title track, it, it was it was Jill saying, "I need help." You
I
know?
mean, even in the artwork,
Yes. And yeah, it's tough to listen to those lyrics because of what happened a few years later. And I like I said, I had limited interactions with Jill. I met her twice, but both times she was incredibly kind. Um, just a really great soul. Not
mm,
she was a powerful presence, but not in a scary or frightening way. She was very like comforting and was willing to talk to you. No, there was no rock star bullshit with her. She was very open.
yeah,
And when I heard she passed away, I was shocked. It was very it affected me a lot, and it was
mm,
um it was tough for me to listen to Huntress for a couple of years after she passed away because it was painful, and you hear that a lot from a lot of Huntress fans, especially people that knew Jill personally. She was just such a good, kind soul. She was never out to hurt anybody. She wanted to just do her music and put her art out there. And she had such horrible disease, mental illness, that it really, it and for somebody that had that kind of mental illness, she didn't lash out against people. She didn't hate the world. She kind of tried to keep it to herself and was always, willing to talk to fans and just be such a nice person. Actually, my copy of Story of Beast I have signed by Jill, and I
oh,
think
wow.
I think I have a photo that she signed too that I have somewhere around packed away. Just a band photo that she had signed.
I
For me.
remember, yeah, I remember when you told me because that's when you bought the album and you like when you picked me up. I guess we must have been going up for a practice or something like that, and you were picking me up and you were listening to it in the car, and that's where I heard Huntress for the first time.
Yeah,
And you were just telling me the story about how she was so cool and so nice. And
yeah,
when I was watching interviews with her, I I couldn't help but just say to myself, "Damn, just she just seemed like the nicest person in the world, and
yeah,
she seemed like such a sweetheart of a woman." And
yes,
it just, yeah, she was one of those where you just watch you just watch the interview with her and you just say, "Shit, why'd you have to leave us?"
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's still to this day, affects me because
Yeah, I mean,
especially listening to Static, because that again, her that was her exposed, opening up her heart and saying like, this is the pain I'm feeling. This,
yeah,
the,
I mean, even I want to wake up.
yes,
It could not be more clear.
yeah,
And even the order of the tracks when you're looking at this, it's so obvious that this is about more than just music. I don't even know the lyrics, but just seeing the song titles in that
mhm,
order for Static, it's it's already you could all and of course in hindsight now, yeah, you could totally see where this is going and what this is. Really.
yeah. But
Um
and even like the song Brian, it was about, she wrote for a fan that would always come to the shows and bring her gifts. So
oh wow.
she loved her fans. She was always willing to meet fans, and she always did after every show. Both times
Yeah.
that I saw her, she was sitting at the booth, at the merch booth, waiting to meet and greet with fans.
Yeah.
And
And
even the one time, so the second time I saw her was when they opened up for Arch Enemy on that tour. It was Creator, Arch Enemy, and Huntress. It was actually a
oh
really good
wow.
show. And there was so many people around the merch booth. Arch Enemy came on, and everybody was around the merch booth trying to meet Jill instead of
Wow.
watching Arch Enemy.
That's
It was like the whole. I forget where. I think it was at. I think it was at the PlayStation or whatever, Nokia. I don't even remember what it was at the time. It used to be the Nokia Theater, then it became the PlayStation Theater.
who knows what
I
it
think it
is
was there,
now.
but it wasn't a large area where they had the merch booth set up, and the place was packed to the gills with people waiting to meet Jill.
That's really saying something because Arch Enemy is really fucking good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
was it before was it when they had Angela Gossow singing, or was it after when they had the current singer? I don't know her name because
I
I haven't
can't.
listened to them in a long time.
Let me see. I might be able to find it out. Oh, it was Mayhem Fest 2013, by the way, that I saw
Okay.
them. The main stage was Rob Zombie, Five Finger Death Punch, but who cares about them? I don't give a shit. Actually, their sound went out halfway through their set, and they were like, you couldn't hear them. So I guess that was a good thing because I've never liked Five Finger Death Punch. But where the hell am I? I lost my friggin' place here on the thing. All right, here we go. So then Machine Head played. Machine Head are okay. I've never really been a huge fan. Huntress,
They're hit or
Children,
miss.
yeah. Children of Bodom, of course. Scorpion Child, which were like a really cool, like hard rock Led Zeppelin-esque band. They were really good. And there, it had its typical like crappy metalcore, like Emery and Born of Osiris and shit like that. But the of all the lineups, this had the most actual good bands on it. Mastodon, like I said, Amon Amarth was amazing. They had the giant long ship on stage. I couldn't believe they actually did that for Mayhem Fest.
That's awesome.
Children of Bodom. It was a good show.
Nice.
Let me see if I could find.
Jill actually filled in for Johan Hegg on an Amon Amarth tour.
Yes, yeah, because he had some kind of. I think he got like laryngitis or something. He couldn't sing for several dates, if I remember correctly.
I think that's what it was. That must have been something.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. Actually, I think there's videos of it.
I hope so.
Yeah, let's see. Jill Janus, Amon Amarth. Yeah, there are videos.
Okay, cool. I'll have to check them out. But, man.
And her stage presence was just amazing. If you watch a live video of her, she owned the stage.
I was gonna get to that. Yes.
Yeah. It's hard to find front women, front men, anybody in that could own the stage like Jill did. She was a presence on stage. I always could, like I said, the albums kind of reflected the whole triple goddess thing. And Jill reflected that too. She was like almost the embodiment of a pagan goddess on stage. You couldn't beat it. And her vocal range was just amazing. Her voice was out of control.
She had 4 octaves, right?
Yes.
Which very difficult. And that's just one of those things that you're born with.
And also could switch from operatic to like harsh on a dime, no problem. Yes. She would get that distorted like growling vocal and then go right into operatic vocals the next line. No problem at all. It really just amazing vocal range.
Yeah, she was very special.
And we could talk about Jill, a lot, obviously, because she was the heart and soul of the band. I can't also disparage. Everybody in the band was amazing. Blake Beal, amazing guitar player. Obviously, he wrote the music. Jill wrote the lyrics and the vocal melodies, but all the guitars were written by the guys in the band, and they were all top notch.
Yeah. Everybody knew their part. Everybody was as tight as you could possibly be.
And really,
they knew exactly what they were trying to do and what they wanted to accomplish,
yes.
and they hit the nail on the head every time.
And they came out at a time in music where we had the new wave of thrash that was going on, that was big at the time. 2012, early 2010s in general was the heavy metal was it was you had the metalcore bands on the one hand, but then you had the new wave of thrash bands on the other, and it was huge. Everybody was playing thrash metal, and Huntress came along, and they had the thrash influence, but they weren't just playing thrash. They combined so many different influences and had such a unique sound for that time. They were playing, they had doomier tracks, they had thrashier tracks, they had like tracks that sounded like they could have been on a Cannibal Corpse album. Like it just so like out of left field for that time period. And I think that's really what contributed a lot to their success, is that they were so unique. And they didn't just sound like every other band that was playing at that time.
Right. I mean, and also not to mention being female fronted, because you almost never see that in metal anyway. But
Yes.
in that case, that's usually kind of reserved for power metal. You'll see that a lot,
Yeah.
but not here. This was exactly what it needed to be.
And I
And it
also
was the perfect music for the time period, like you said. I do think that, had they been able to had Jill still have been with us today, I think this would have been the next big arena rock band, or the next big arena metal band that you would see coming into the fold. I think they would have been doing tours with Metallica and Iron Maiden pretty seamlessly.
I think they would have been as big as Ghost, probably.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Probably toured with them.
Yeah. Definitely. And well, I mean, Ghost kind of came out around the same time. Ghost had been a band for a number of years, and I think the first album came out in 2010. So Ghost was around, around the time of Huntress, and obviously they went in a little bit of a different direction than what Huntress did. I also like to point out, at that time there was a lot of bands, female fronted bands, especially at that time. A lot of it was based on sex appeal, and that was never Huntress, thankfully. They, obviously Jill was she was a beautiful woman, but she didn't like rely on that as her persona on stage like Butcher Babies did, for example. Butcher Babies were also big at that time, and it was literally just basically two porn stars on stage, showing their tits.
I forgot about that group.
Yeah. And that was not what Huntress was. And I think that also kind of made them stand out, especially because there's a lot of like machismo in heavy metal, and a lot of guys that are like, oh, I'm not going to listen to them because they're, it's a chick singing and shit like that. Especially at that time. I think that's kind of gone away now. That was more a product of the time period. But I think really Huntress really stood out in that, they weren't that, like, you didn't need to like look at Jill to say, oh yeah, they're just there to be, because she's hot. Like, no, she had real talent, the band had real talent, and they put it out there.
Yeah, I guess she kind of fell into that one of the boys category, where just like the tomboy girl would kind of be there, and just, no one really cared that she happened to be attractive. They were just like, oh yeah, this is my cool friend Jill.
Yeah.
Just that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which definitely helped, because it helped with the whole aura of the band. And then also, the Huntress was clearly in all of the imagery and artwork of everything. So it helped, like, it lent more credibility to the band concept in itself. Right? Like, if you were calling it Huntress and there was a guy singing, I feel like it wouldn't have connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
But man, she just seemed like the best person.
Yeah.
Like, there was an interview where I was listening to, that some podcast had I guess they re-uploaded after she passed, and they had a note afterwards, and well, a note before and a note afterwards, and you know, just as just as the guy is signing off, whoever the host was, he's struggling to get through his final goodbyes, and you just kind of hear that this guy's definitely started crying at
Mm-hmm.
the end of that episode when he's talking about her, and you know that doesn't happen a lot.
No. And I will say to this day,
Like
I'm
she
part of a Huntress fan group on Facebook, and I have been for many years since when I first started listening to Huntress. And to this day, people still, will comment on Jill's birthday and be like, oh, it's, it's her birthday today. We still miss her. To this day, this is going on almost 7 years since she passed, and people are still, her fans are still there, like, we all miss Jill. you know she would really just was such a presence, and I think a person like that comes along not often. A
no,
person like Jill, I think that maybe once a generation. You could say someone like Ozzy is a person like that, where the outpouring of emotion for obviously Ozzy's passing has been astronomical, and rightly so. And I think Jill was someone like that, to obviously to a lesser extent. They weren't necessarily widely known. They had a very large following, and a growing fan base, I think. I think they were very much on their way to headlining tours and touring with large bands like you said, Metallica or an Iron Maiden, um before Jill passed. Uh, it's hard to say what would have been, if Jill would have still continued with Huntress, or if she would have done something else. Like we said, she had other musical projects, like Chelsea Girls. So it's hard to say.
and she had another one with Nina Strauss also,
Yeah.
um, called the where is it? I think the Starbreakers. That was them.
Oh yeah, Starbreakers might have been the one that also had Courtney Cox at one point.
Mm. Well, anyway, I, I think, I think Huntress would have. I think her vision was to do the three albums. I don't think that she. I don't know if she would have done more albums. I think she would have compromised. I think the compromise would have been that they can keep touring, but they can't release any new music
Mm-hmm.
because then it interrupts her vision. Unless the vision
Could be.
was that this would only last for a certain number of time because there's some pagan or astrology number that she needed to stick to
Mm-hmm.
in her vision,
That could have been, because
right? That would make a whole lot of
three
sense.
three is often a considered a sacred number, especially in paganism with the triple goddess.
Yes.
Uh, so they, I could see that, especially, and because paganism was so wound into Huntress. You know, Jill's, obviously all the lyrics are related to paganism, especially on the first album. Um, the second album kind of branched out a little bit, and had different lyrics, especially of like science fiction and space. And then, like I said, the third album was a lot of very introspective of what was going on in Jill's head, I think.
Right. And
Uh,
also the active years of Huntress is 2009 to 2018. So you have 9, which is a multiple of 3, and
yes,
in a lot of circles is also a sacred number.
yeah,
So there's some interesting things going on there.
yeah.
Um, you also see, well, I could also have seen them breaking up, getting back together just to do tours later on,
Hmm.
but no new music. I also could have seen her just doing other projects and she would have been fine just on her own as a solo act or just doing whatever the next thing would have been. I mean, it's hard to say. We don't know. I know when
Yeah.
she was I had seen another interview where she was staying sober and she she would take her dog on the road with her so that way she could
Yes.
go play with the dog, hang out with the dog, meet fans when other people wanted to go get drinks.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought that it was cool that that Lemmy from Motorhead wrote the song "Fuck You to Death."
Yeah. Yeah. Jill personally asked Lemmy to write that song for her, and that's what
Yeah.
he wrote.
She was hanging out at the Rainbow Room, where of course that's where he was.
Yeah.
And you know, they just got to talking, and she just said, "Hey, would you mind writing a song for us?" And that's what he wrote.
Uh-huh.
I mean, also Lemmy always would jump at the opportunity to get his name on it to pen a song credit for somebody else
Yeah.
after it was after he did Hellraiser with Ozzy, because and I got to reread his autobiography again, White Line Fever,
Mm-hmm.
but up until that point he had never seen a bigger check than when he got the royalty check for the songwriting credit for for Hellraiser, and he
Yeah.
barely
Well,
wrote it. And he said he
and
barely wrote anything, and he was like, "Holy shit! I should have just done this instead of being in a band."
he wrote "Mom, I'm Coming Home" too.
Yeah, he did.
So yeah. Hey, big songs for him, and I don't know if you saw, they actually did for like, I think it was like the 20th anniversary of Hellraiser. They combined the Ozzy and Motorhead's version. So it was like Lemmy and Ozzy singing a duet of Hellraiser,
That's
and it was
right.
really fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else to say about Huntress. It's
No, I think all you could really say is we miss Jill. We
Yeah.
wish Jill was still
Rest in
here.
peace, Jill.
Yeah.
Uh, everybody who's listening to this podcast, you should go listen to Huntress if you haven't, because they're just an amazing band. Uh, Jill's like Jill was such a great lyricist too. Like the stuff that she wrote, it just it was great. The lyrics flow so well, and just so good. Starbound Beast. One of my favorite songs from Huntress is on Starbound Beast, Alpha Tori. And a lot of Jill's, she often said that when she was writing lyrics, she would get this image in her mind of a blue thread coming from the stars down to her brain, kind of like beaming lyrics to her head.
Mm.
And the song Alpha Tori is actually about that. It's about the star the Alpha Tori system is where the old name of Alpha Tori was Aldebaran. That's the Arabic name, and there's a lot of UFO lore that goes into that, and she that's present in the lyrics. She says transmissions received psychically. Zodiac lights the path to the Anunnaki. Alpha Tori.
I
So
love that she talked about that, because that's one of those things that don't get brought up enough. And the beam makes a whole lot of sense with the
yeah,
Starbound Beast artwork, the beam that's giving her the lyrics and the constellations and everything. But it's also, there's also a lot in there in the imagery that is reflective of the Anunnaki stuff, and also a lot of
yeah,
the theories surrounding ancient Egypt, that the capstones were at the top of the pyramids and the obelisks were meant for, they weren't just decoration. They were there
beacons.
as, yes, they were beacons.
Yeah,
Um and also there's and also they proved that they and also in recent years they proved the um that the desert surrounding Egypt was actually once a thriving ecosystem where it was
yeah,
lush greenery, and
the
there
entire
was
Sahara
just,
Desert
yes,
was once green, like green, like grasslands
yes, like
and
an
trees.
oasis basically.
Yes.
And so they've discovered all the tiny little chambers that are in the pyramids. It's because this was because of the irrigation and the flooding and the water systems, and that's why they have these. That's why if you go into a pyramid, you'll find these batteries that they essentially had where it was just where the water was helping charge the batteries. So Egypt was basically a giant power plant that that one lit up the city. So the
Hmm.
city at night was just it wasn't dark at night. It was just illuminated by the light that you would get from the capstones from the water system that was creating, the electric charges.
Hmm.
And on top of that, it also was potentially a beacon to the gods and the Anunnaki who would
Yes.
come down and help them with whatever they needed to do, or they would worship them. They would, give them whatever they needed. And some people say that the Anunnaki are the original beings the celestial beings that put us there. And that would
Yes.
be what we would now call as aliens,
Yeah.
right? So there's theories that aliens are still, that the Anunnaki are still just monitoring us,
Yeah.
whether it's because it's a resource that we have, or because we are a central point in the
Well,
universe.
apparently the theory was is that they were here for gold because our planet has an abundance of gold compared to theirs, and they used it in some kind of weather modification device on the planet because their planet was dying. It was, the atmosphere was dying, was being stripped away, I guess, or whatever. So they came to Earth to mine gold for their machines, and they took, the apes that were here and combined, did DNA splicing to create humans. They spliced their own DNA with apes to create humans to be slaves for them. And then there was a faction of them that said, no, we should be enslaving them. This is wrong. And then there was a civil war, and that's the whole lore of the Anunnaki. And allegedly, there's these Sumerian tablets that actually tell this whole history.
Hmm.
And there's a book by Zachariah Sitchin called hold on, let me.
A lot of those stories are also in the Emerald Tablets,
Yeah. Well, yeah,
which,
yeah.
surprise, surprise, they are considered, they are deemed not canon, and and not parts of the Bible and all this other stuff,
The
because of
12th
course
planet.
these things probably tell the truth, and they were discredited by, probably Christianity. Let's face it.
But yeah. Well, I mean, obviously there are so many people that call it pseudoscience and say, "Oh no, he's wrong. It's pseudo historical." Uh,
Sure.
but
But
oftentimes these people are trying to push an agenda, and they purposely are trying to hide alternative theories. Not
right.
saying it's 100 like he was right, but you know they go out of their way to try to discredit people that push theories that go against what is widely known. And for oftentimes mythology, I think a lot of mythology is based on truth. For many hundreds of years, people thought Troy and the Trojan War was a myth. And then archaeologists in the 1900s found the site where Troy was. They found the walls. So Troy was a real city. And for everyone just thought, oh, it's just in the Iliad and the Odyssey. It's not real. It was just a story. But no, it was real. It was based on an actual city and an actual war that happened like 1,000 years before it was written.
Right. And I
Uh,
was also going to say that if you look in locations where certain things occurred, if you look at where the locations are in the Emerald Tablets and the Book of Thoth, the Atlantean, they found scriptures exactly where they said that they were,
yes.
right? And it was in high cliffs where it would have been impossible for someone to scale, which there which also ties into the theory of the Nephilim, and that there were once giants, and
Mhm.
that these scrolls were also could have been placed here in a great flood. There's there's so many things that in all mythologies and all religions and all religious texts, there's so many things that they all have, that there's no way that these are just stories,
Yeah.
right? Because they wouldn't all have, if these were all just stories, none of that,
Well,
they all have a flood. There's always a
yes,
flood.
the flood myth. I was going to mention the flood myth is the big one. The flood myth. Every single ancient culture had a flood myth. Every single one. The Native Americans, uh, South, like at the Native Americans that were in the South America, the obviously, you know, the story of Noah in the Bible. You had the Epic of Gilgamesh that was in ancient Babylonia. The Chinese had a flood myth. I believe the Japanese had a flood myth. So there probably was at some point in ancient history a massive cataclysmic flood that wiped out multiple civilizations, and also goes back to the story of Atlantis. Uh, there's a lot of people now that believe that the site of Atlantis is actually the Rishat structure in the Sahara Desert. And if you look at it, it looks like how Plato described what Atlantis looked like. So there was definitely something. Uh,
Hmm.
to say that, you know, that there wasn't a flood myth, I think is naive. I think, or there wasn't a flood, rather, or some kind of cataclysm that happened involving water thousands of years ago that wiped out a big chunk of human civilization. I think that's naive, and I think that's people are being purposely, you know, they're purposely misleading and trying to deflect off of that. And you know, the fact that the Rishat structure has never been really seriously uh examined by archaeologists because it's in Mauritania, which is a really shitty human rights area of the world. So it's like really hard to actually get scientists out there because it's not a good place to be. It's not a good country. Uh, and it's also in a very rugged, remote part of the Sahara Desert.
Yeah,
But
they got to figure out a way to do that. They'll get it eventually.
yeah, I mean, if you look at pictures of it, you would say there was something there because
Oh, for sure. I'm looking at
it
it now.
yeah
There had to have
it's,
been.
you know, and people keep saying, oh well, it's just a natural formation. Okay, it might be a natural formation, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't once a city built there. And you could see that, you know, there are, if you look at satellite images, you could see the watermarks that, like, there at one point was water flowing, like massive amounts of water flowing through that area.
Yeah.
You know, so it could have very much been a city that got wiped out by a massive flood at one point.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, uh yeah, so Jill was very much into that, you know, into the esoteric. Obviously, that goes with, you know, her pagan beliefs, and she put that in the lyrics, and you know, just an amazing lyricist all around. You listen to like Zenith, which was their single from Starbound Beast, or one of the singles from Starbound, their main single. They made the music video for. Uh, you know, you listen to Blazing Horizons, Burning the Sky, Can't Hold Me Back from the Bullseye, Yearning for Heaven, Bursting the Gloom, I'll Vaporize This, Riding Lines That Slice the Night and Fill the Celestial Bowl, Roll a Sphere of Stars About My Soul, Zenith, Blaze the Sky, Zenith High, Seizing the Cosmos with Beings of Light, We'll Smoke the Galaxies Tonight, Soaring on a Constellation Through the Northern Sky, Vertical Forever, We Can't Die, Stay High. And like, just the imagery that calls up, and you know, and when you hear her singing it and the power behind her voice, it's mesmerizing.
Yeah. I think now the art. I think now the artwork is also is also another reason why Starbound Beast is my favorite. The more that we're talking about this album, the more
Yeah,
I'm falling in love with it. So I'll probably listen to it again tonight.
yeah, it's my favorite album. It really is. I love the first album and I love Static, but Starbound Beast is just, it really is the perfect album from start to finish.
Mm.
Uh, it's so good. It really is.
I don't I don't have anything else to add. I feel
Yeah,
like we went on a much greater tangent than I expected, and I think
with
this
the
was
Anunnaki and ancient civilizations. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I could talk about that stuff all day, but
yeah, we could do a whole
I
show on that.
yeah, I think I'll pass for now. But
Yep.
but that might be something really cool to talk about down the road.
Yes.
But oh man, if you've got a Huntress story or a story of just meeting Jill, please let us know in the comments. Let us know how wonderful she was and what she meant to you. Tell us which album is your favorite. Tell us
Hmm.
which song is your favorite. And if there's anything we missed, let us know too. But I hope you guys learned a lot, and I hope
Hmm.
I I hope you just really enjoyed yourselves and got a chance to really take in what Huntress is. And if you don't know what Huntress is, you should absolutely go check them out. Do it for Jill.
Yeah.
All right. Well, rest in peace, Jill. Thank you
Yeah.
for all of your contributions that we now can share forever. Thank you for these gifts. We hope that wherever you are that you're doing okay.
Mhm.
All right. I guess we can wrap this up. This has been Why Does This Exist? I've been Chris.
And I've been Rob.
And remember, question everything.
Good night, everybody.